Shader Effector provides a quick way to control the properties of multiple layers from the pixel values of another layer, kind of like the Shader Effector from Cinema 4D's Mograph module. So in this composition, I have a heat map infographic in which I have a bunch of stack compositions spread throughout that have a numerical value of 0 to 100 over the course of 4 seconds. And the way that I'm controlling this is using a noise map composition. And in here I have a layer with a fractal noise. And it's just giving me these random black and white values. And if I go back into the heat map, and this one's already been set up, so to undo this and show you how to set this up from scratch, I'm going to select all the stack compositions and make sure that the time property is selected in the shader effector property, and then click remove. And then once that's done, you can see that all it's doing right now is just playing through time. They're all the same, 0 to 100 over the course of 4 seconds. So now to set this up, I'm going to select the noise layer and set that to be the layer to sample from. And then since each of these stack compositions are the duration of 4 seconds, I'm going to set the high to be 4. And then I'll select all these layers and then click apply. And then if I RAM preview this again, you can see that the higher white values are being time remapped to higher numerical values inside of the stack composition, while the black values are being translated to lower values. It also gives us some ability to adjust the animation post creation. It adds some expressions to the sample layer that are named after the property that we base the expression off of, in this case time remap. So we set the high value to be 4, and that has translated over to the expression as well. So if we wanted to half the value, instead of being 100 and have it be 50 when it's at its max, all we'd have to do, since in the stat 2 seconds is where it's at 50, all we'd have to do is set 2, and then that will max out all of our stack compositions to be 50. And also, if we wanted to completely invert our stack compositions, all we'd have to do is set the low value to be 4 and the high value to be 0. And that will make all of the white values be a low numerical value in the stack composition, and all the black values be a high numerical value. Another way to use Shader Effector would be to set up a crude crowd simulation. And so in this composition, I have just a couple of person compositions where there's just a dude waving at you. So in order to make the stadium wave effect, I need to provide Shader Effector with a luminance value composition that is going to start from this side and wave over to this side. So I've already set that up, and if I show the transition layer behind it, it looks like this. And so then just to set this up again, all we need to do is select the transition composition and set that to be the layer to sample from. And I need to check here. I need to check here to see how long this composition is, and it's 4.5 seconds long, so we can put 4.5 in. And so we'll select all these person compositions, and we'll say 4.5, and then just click apply again. So now if we RAM preview, you'll see that in sequence these guys are waving at you. So far I've only shown you Shader Effector working with the time remapping property, but it'll also work with any property that you specify. In this composition I have a bunch of squares in 3D space, and I want to control them using this rotation map composition. So I'm going to select this rotation map and then select all the squares that I want to control, and I want to rotate them on their z-axis, and I could also set this using the selected property of the shader effector, and then going to the z rotation property and then clicking select property, and that will select the z rotation property in shader effector. And I want the low value, so when it encounters a black value, I want it to be -20, or let's do 30 so that it's pronounced. And then when it encounters a white value, to be +30. So now I'm going to select all these other layers and then click apply. And you'll see that Shader Effector went through all the layers and added the appropriate expression to translate black values to -30 and positive values to +30. Not extremely exciting yet, so let's go back to the time remapping property, which you can see that when these layers progress through time, they just grow bigger. So let's use this time map composition to control their progression through time. So we'll switch the sample layer to be the time map, and then we'll go back to time, and let's see how long these things are. And looks like the end of the animation is around 5 seconds. So we're back to the string composition, and we'll say the low is 30 again, or 0, and then the high is 5, and we'll select all the layers and then click apply. And if we RAM preview this, we get a pretty interesting animation without a whole lot of work. Another way to use Shader Effector would be to create some interesting transitions. So in this composition, I have an image that's been split up into multiple square slices. And inside of that, I just have a Venetian blinds effect that is just simply just wiping it. So in order to create something a little bit more interesting, let's again use the time remapping property of all these layers, and let's use this transition composition to power it. So let's set the sample layer to be the transition comp, and let's set all these transition from compositions to be affected by it. So forgot to check how long these things are, and looks like the end of the animation stops at 2 seconds. So we'll go back here, reselect all of those layers, come back over to Shader Effector, and then put in 2 for the high, and then click apply. And once that's done, let's do a quick RAM preview. And you can see that all of a sudden we have a much more unique transition. So a quick note on some of these other parameters. This is the sample radius, and typically you want to leave this set to 1, as that equates to 1 pixel and is also the fastest. If you set it to 2, it will sample 4 pixels around the sample area, so that's 4 times the performance hit. So typically if you want to smooth out the sample values, if it's very jagged, you could set this to 2, or you could just apply a fast blur or some sort of blur to the sample layer, which will do the same thing much faster. And this is the channel value, and that is which channel from the sample layer to evaluate. You can choose from the luma value, which is a culmination or the average of the red, green, and blue channels, and that's typically what you want to use. Or you could choose the alpha to sample from. This button toggles between absolutely replacing property values and relatively replacing property values. So with these low and high values currently in here, when it's set to absolute, the low value would absolutely be 0 and the high would absolutely be 200. But when relative is toggled, it will add 0 when it's at its low, and add 200 to whatever value is currently in the property channel. You can use bake when your composition is getting a little bit too slow because of all these expressions that are being added. So to use it, just select the layers that you want to bake and make sure that the property is set to the specific property that you want to bake, and then click bake. And then that will go through and add keyframes for all the layers. Fix is when you rename something and for some reason After Effects doesn't properly go through all the expressions and update the reference. Or for whatever reason your expression just stops working. You can try to use fix to fix the problem. And remove, as I demonstrated earlier, is when you want to just remove the expression or all the keyframes from that particular layer. So that's about all there is to show. So I hope you like the script, and thanks.